The danger here is these are the folks that tend to drain the majority of your resources, energy, time, financial resources, and they are not contributing. And in fact, they could be toxic to the rest of your team. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Leading Smart podcast, leading in real time. I was going to say season 3, and then I was like, oh, this is kind of forever now. So until we figure out exactly what that looks like,
I
we're
don't know that
leading in
we've
real
landed
time.
that decision. Yeah, I think we just randomly talked about it last week and we haven't talked about it since. So
Yeah.
I don't think people care what we call it. They just like tuning in for the topics.
That's true. Well, today's topic was inspired by I was with a group of leaders this week and presented this exercise to them and just saw the light bulbs go off. And we do this exercise in almost every gathering that we do, Tim, and I'm sure you probably use it in every consultation you do too, and it always resonates. We are going, I don't know exactly what the concise title of this episode will be, but we are going to be working through a staffing exercise. Staff,
A
I don't like
four
saying staff
box
ranking.
exercise. Yeah.
Staff 4 box exercise. Yeah. And it's going to help you be able to determine how your team is performing from a job perspective and then also culture perspective. So that's what we're going to walk through today. The symptoms that I usually see, Tim, on this is if you feel like your leadership team is misaligned on performance, like maybe you're in a conversation and I'm like, Tim, I think that person is really underperforming and not doing a good job. And then you're like, what? I think they're doing great. So if you've had conversations like that recently as a team, or hypothetically speaking, you know that there are folks that are on your team that probably need to be offboarded, but the leadership team is not aligned on that for whatever reason. That's another great reason why you should consider this exercise. What else comes to mind for you, Tim, of what would bring a leadership team to needing to do this exercise?
Well, it definitely could be those things, but I also think it's just good practice. Let's just do this, every 12 months, every 18 months, every time we go off on a retreat, let's spend an hour as a lead team just assessing this to see. Because sometimes there's like a gut thing of like someone who maybe was like totally aligned with your staff and with your organization for years, but suddenly they've kind of gone off. And it's like, and we're all sensing it from different areas, but we've never really talked about it. And it's worth a conversation to say, what's going on here? Can we help this person? Can we pull them back in? Or is it something where it's just like they're probably disconnecting from us in some way?
Yeah, that's a good point. Just regular stewardship and hygiene of our people resources and protecting our culture too. Yeah. All right. So this is a graph or a chart. So if you are having trouble grasping this, I think it'll be pretty easy for you to get it as we talk through it. But we would encourage you to go over to our YouTube channel where you can see mine and Tim's faces. But most importantly, you can actually see the graphics that go along with what we're going to audibly walk through and describe you today. So imagine you're standing at a whiteboard or one of those big sticky notes and you're going to draw an x-axis and oops, I did the wrong motion. An x-axis and a y-axis, just like you
Yes.
would at the beginning of any, graph. And the bottom, the x-axis is culture, and the y-axis is performance. So, Tim, I think it's important that we describe what we mean by culture because it's always surprising to me how many teams we work with that still don't have clarity on what they mean when they say the culture of XYZ church.
Yeah.
So, how would you describe the x axis as culture?
So we help a lot of organizations, a lot of churches like figure out what their staff values are and then live into them. So if you've defined them, then that's like your best benchmark is like, we have these 3 values or these 5 values or these 7 values. I'm not talking like core values for the church, but I'm talking like staff values, the way that we live out our life together and the way we behave together. If you have that, and the simple definition is, are they living out your values? And the more they're living out your values, the more aligned they are with your culture and your DNA, and the less so, then they aren't. If you don't have those, it's like, yeah, we've never really done that. You kind of still already know a bit about like, what's it like to be Like if your church is, let's say your church is called High Point, what's it like to be on the High Point staff? Like, how do you know when someone like actually fits the High Point way? How do you know when they just like, man, they get it? You think of someone like super aligned, they're the person that you just want new people to go to because this person's going to help them get aligned and help them get on board with what we're about and why we exist and how we behave together and how we treat each other and the kind of things we say to each other and the kind of things we don't say to each other. And that's why we just use the word culture, kind of an overarching term of like how we live together and how we behave together.
Yeah, that last thing you said there really resonates because I was telling the group I was with this week that imagine it's you're a new team member's first day. The people who you would say, I want this new person to hang out with this other person, like those are the people that you would rank a 10 on culture. That we wish we could clone them because they're just so just live out and embody our DNA of our team. The people that you would want that new person to avoid, and that you're like, I hope they're on vacation that week because I don't want their bad attitude to like
Yeah.
leak into this new person. Those would be the folks that you would rank like a 1, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I feel like even if you don't yet have your stated staff values, which if you don't, we can help you with that. And we would love to help you with that. Even that I think is a good mental model of, yeah, would I want a new person to hang out with them or not?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's cool.
I was in a meeting yesterday with the church that we're working with, and I'm working with their lead team, but I had a meeting with someone who's not on their lead team. I haven't spent a ton of time with. His name's Spencer, and Spencer is moving into a new role, and so we were just like brainstorming it for about an hour. And after he left, I said to the other people in the room that are lead team members, I said, he is so like aligned with who you guys are. Like he gets it. He bleeds the culture. And you can tell and he hasn't been on staff for decades. He's been there maybe 4 years. But he's someone I would be like, I would want new staff to be next to him related to culture because he totally gets it.
That's awesome. So the x-axis as culture is the way that we do our work. Then the performance is like the how we do our work. Are we getting our work done? Are they meeting goals? Are they meeting or exceeding expectations? How are they performing in the job that they are responsible for? Anything you'd add to that, Tim?
Yeah. And you think about it like, let's say most of our listeners are leading or working in a church in some way. So let's say it's the student ministry. And let's say your church has been like going along in 5-10% growth a year, and your student ministry is like 40% growth a year. Like it is just crushing it. That would be someone who's far exceeding expectations. You probably have a whole lot of people on your staff that are meeting expectations. Like it's fine. They're doing really, really solid as a performance. And then you have people who are underperforming. And maybe it's not like we got to pull them out tomorrow, but they're underperforming. And you've got folks that are like, this is not a fit. Like it is absolutely not a fit. We've got to pull them out of there because we're losing ministry impact. We're losing, if in this case, we're losing students. I had a student pastor. This was years ago. We had about 140 in our student ministry when he took over, and he was with us for about 3 years. We had 40 when he left. So he
Yeah.
had successfully grown our student ministry down by 100 people, by 100 students. So it's like, and he went on to be a lead pastor at a church. He planted a church and it grew to 4,000. So
Wow.
he wasn't a bad person. He just wasn't a good student pastor.
Mhm.
So it's not about the person. It's about kind of their performance in that role.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so we're gonna pause there because I just want to frame the conversation, frame a little bit of the visual that we're gonna be working towards. X-axis culture, Y-axis performance. Before we do this with teams, Tim, walk us through the exercise of how we individually kind of think about ranking each person with 4 categories with culture and performance.
Yeah, what I like to do with a team before they see the chart or know about what kind of where we're going, and I just say, okay, 1, 2, 3, or 4. So on performance, like 4 would be crushing it, like absolutely, like the illustration I gave about the student pastor. The next number would be a 3, would be like, good, they're doing solid, really good. The number below that would be 2, would be underperforming, and then they get a 1 if it's just a poor, like a really poor, they're doing poor at their job. And then same thing on that X or horizontal axis is a 4 would be absolute fit. It's the person you described that we're sending everyone to because they just bleed our culture. 3 would be a good fit, 2 would be a questionable fit, 1 would be a poor fit. And often we can if you just say a few sentences defining culture and then you say the person's name, it's like, what do we think Martha is? People are like, oh, yeah, she's a 1. She might be a 2 if on a good day, but she's a 1. And I've heard the other way of like, you know what? The last 6 months, they're probably a 3 or 4, but 6 months ago they were a 2. They were seemed like a poor fit on their way out, but they something's happened and they really pulled in. So it's just a way to get people, and then you put those numbers together. So between performance and between culture, and say, yeah, they're a 4-2, or they're a 3-3, or they're a 2-2, and just get a sense, and then you throw them on the chart, which makes it come alive.
Yeah, and I think what's powerful about this is, especially if you're in a setting where things are dysfunctional or there's misalignment along the leadership team, for each person to do this individually in the room and like literally write it down on paper. Because what I've also often seen happen is we default to whatever the senior leader or the loudest person in the room says. So you might be sitting there thinking, oh man, I would rank this person a 1. But then the senior pastor says, they're a 4, they're amazing, and then you're like, oh crap, I can't tell my senior pastor I think this person is a 1. Yeah, yeah, I'd give him a 3.
Right.
So it just helps each person like literally take a second, write it down. Then we plot it on the chart to see
Don't
where we're.
change your answer once you hear someone else's answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it like? Hands up, pens down. Yeah.
Yep.
So then we want to start plotting people. So now we've got the 2 numbers for everybody. And so now we want to plot them on the graph. And so for the folks who are a 3 or a 4 on culture, they would be on the right side of the vertical line. And so then we think, okay, what's their number on performance? And so for the people who were a 3 and a 4 in performance and a 3 and a 4 for culture, they're going to be in the top right quadrant. Does that make sense the way I said that, Tim? As the
Yep.
numbers guy, would you say that more
Thanks.
concisely than me?
Nope. And the graphic will help. So go to YouTube and check it out if that helps. But yes, they be in that top right quadrant. And those are the people that, what's the word you use for that?
Retain.
It's the people we want to retain. Another, if you like R words, another R word would be reward. Those are the folks that like absolutely need to know how important they are to you as a leader, to your lead team, to the organization, because they may not know that. And you may not have that many people in that upper right quadrant, but these are your rock
High.
stars.
Mhm.
These are the people that are just crushing it. Even if they're like a 3-3 and it's like solid performance and a good fit, that's great. That's fantastic. And we still want to move them up to be a 4-4, but we want to retain them for the long haul.
Yeah, just every great sermon, I like things that start with the same letter. So all of these, the 4 quadrants are all gonna start with an R. So
That's
that
because
top.
you grew up Southern Baptist. You're like a little Baptist girl.
I did, I loved those little my pastor would, like, print out a little worksheet in every bulletin, and I was right there writing down all the notes,
Yeah, you were.
filling in the blanks. Yep, so those are the folks who wanna retain, recognize, and reward. 3 Rs, because that box deserves even more than 1 word. Alright, now, if they were a 3 or a 4 on culture, but only a 1 or a 2 on performance, they're gonna go in the bottom right quadrant. And these are the folks, the R word for this quadrant is reposition, because these are the folks that just, man, they bleed our DNA. They are so bought in on culture. These are the people that, like, we think about that person's first day. We want them to hang out with this person, but they're just not doing great hitting their goals or in the role that they're in. Right, Tim?
Yeah. And so you might look at them and say, you know what? They're not in the wrong role. We just have not trained them very well. So if you want
Mhm.
another R word, retrain, give them some experience, put them next to someone who's doing that job really well in another church, send them to a conference, give them some training. But a lot of times we're like, yeah, you know what? They're just in the wrong role. And so that's when repositioning, because man, we don't want to lose them. These are the folks that we've written about long hellos and quick goodbyes. These are the people I would put an exception. I'd put a little asterisk by the quick goodbye because they're so great for the culture. You want them to stay in the church if for some reason we can't find another position for them, but we know we have to move them. These would be the people I'd be going next to and say, hey, this probably isn't going to work long haul, long term. So let's give you a little bit of time to find what's next. We would love you to stay connected to the church in some way.
Yeah. The other thing that I always tell folks on this box, on the reposition or retrain box, is it's not always possible that we are able to reposition them inside the walls of our church. That's just not always the case. And so we want to make sure that we help reposition them elsewhere and do it with full of grace and lots of conversations over time after we've tried to retrain them and find a different role for them if we can be able to say, hey, I want to be a reference for you. I want to support you. I want to help you find the role where you can fully live into your calling. But the implication of not stewarding this box well is the impact not only internally on your culture, on the staff, but also the congregation. If they're a very well loved person and we don't care for these folks well and we let them go abruptly, the ripple effects that can have on your culture can be pretty severe. We've seen that happen all too often. So, yeah, there was the group that I was with this week. There was one person in the room that was like, this is so helpful because I can literally think of someone today who, like, is the perfect DNA culture fit for our team but they're not performing in their role, but you're helping me think about another role that I think that they would be amazing at. And so that's always like what we want to try to do with those reposition folks. All right. So, speaking of having to potentially reposition outside of our four walls to another church or elsewhere, that leads us to the bottom left box of the quadrant, which would be remove. So these are the folks who are going to be a 1 and a 2 on culture and a 1 and a 2 on performance. And these are the ones that are so hard. These are those hard conversations. When we do this, there's usually at least one person in this box. I don't know about you, Tim, but when I do it, there's like usually at least one person that we know we need to remove them, but we just haven't had the hard conversation. And the danger here is these are the folks that tend to drain the majority of your resources, energy, time, financial resources, and they are not contributing. And in fact, they could be toxic to the rest of your team. So, yeah, anything else you would add there to our remove quadrant, Tim?
Yeah, I would say yes, hard for the conversations and the relational dynamics, but easy as far as like they're the easiest to spot. Like we know you
Mhm.
get a lead team talking together about this. It's like we maybe never talked about it together, but but people are like, yeah, absolutely, because not only are they not good in the role that we put them in, but they're not good for our culture. They're a little bit toxic. They may be leaking a little bit. They may have a poor attitude. They may be grumbling, but for what they're not living up to our values. And so often we're working with a church right now on the West Coast, and they've just never let anyone go for any reason ever. And so now they're realizing that their staff size is too big for the size of church they are and for the size of their budget. And so now they got to start making these decisions. And it's really hard because you got people on staff in that lower left that have just been allowed to exist there.
Mhm.
And a lot of times the churches I talk to, when I ask them, they're there, how long have they been there? They've probably been there for 3 years. And why are they still there? It's either because our hands are tied because we don't, sometimes we have to go through a church committee or something to make personnel decisions like that, or sometimes it's just like because their husband is also on staff and their kids are in the youth group and their brother is the chairman of the board. There's like relational, sometimes political might be too strong of a word, but there's reasons why it's a really hard decision to make, or it comes with a lot of, what's the word they use in war? Collateral damage.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of collateral damage. It's like we solve the problem because we offboard them, but we have a lot of other reasons. But I would say you got to push through that because for the
Mhm.
organization, for our stewardship of resources, we have to make those decisions.
Absolutely. It's the responsibility of leadership. All right. That leaves our top left quadrant. So these folks would be a 1 or a 2 on culture, but they would be a 3 or a 4 on performance. And this is often the hardest, Tim. I've heard the phrase the brilliant jerk with these folks. They are crushing it, exceeding expectations or crushing it in the performance of their role, but they are potentially toxic to the organization, or they've got a bad attitude, or they're the rotten apple. They're the folks that you wish are on vacation when someone new starts on the team. So this quadrant is called redeem, because we want to put these folks on a short leash, put them on a coaching plan of 30 to 90 days, but be really clear about where they need to improve and how they're not matching culture. And this can often be, I don't know about you, Tim, but this can also often be a surprise for this person, because they're like, what are you talking about? I'm doing
Yeah.
amazing. My youth group has grown by 100 kids every year. And that's why having your stated values is so important. So you have objective attributes to hold someone accountable to. But yeah, what else would you say about the redeem quadrant, Tim?
Yeah, this person has been allowed to exist and they know it and they absolutely know it. They know they can get away with being late or not showing up at meetings, not playing by the rules everyone else plays, not being a team player, not jumping in to help their teams, just being an island because they are crushing it potentially, or they're doing a really good job in their role. And they've just been allowed, like the other stuff hasn't mattered because no one's ever talked to them about it. Everyone
Mhm.
knows it. Everyone knows they're like really hard to work with, or like people from the outside are like, oh my word, he's an amazing pastor. She's an amazing, but people that are closest to that to him or her are like, well, I don't want to work with them. Like they're really difficult, can be difficult. Sometimes they're like they have a really tight team. Like their team of 3 or 4 or 6 people around them, their department, love them, give their lives up for. But anyone kind of right outside that nucleus are like, yeah, like they get passes no one else gets, and it's frustrating to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, these are the folks who, and this is where I'm curious what you think about this, Tim. Like I would say the people in the bottom left quadrant of remove, those folks we need to put on a pip to make sure that we are clear, especially not to get super HRy, but depending on what state you're in, making sure that we have done our due diligence to give this person clarity that they are underperforming in both areas. So that would be what I would call a pip. And then on the top left quadrant, which is our redeem quadrant, these are the folks that I would put on a coaching plan, is what I would call it. Like, hey, yes, you are exceeding your goals. However, our expectation of you from a culture perspective, you are not, you're underperforming on that. And here's what that looks like. So I'm going to give you 90 days. These are the areas that we're going to coach in. And if at that time it doesn't improve, we'll need to part ways or et cetera. That's what I would coach towards. I'm curious, Tim, if you agree or disagree on that.
Yeah, the way you just described that process with the upper left folks, I consider that kind of a pip. If it has any kind of like a
Yeah.
date range to it, like by 30 or by 60 or by 90 days, is like we need to see improvements. But whatever the term is, like they need to know because they haven't, no one's told them, but they need to know like, oh wow, this stuff, like our values actually matter. This is not just something in the employee handbook. I actually have to live these values out, and you give them some very tangible behaviors that have to change. Otherwise, we'll be willing to take a ding on performance in your ministry area to get a leader in here that is aligned and a cultural fit. The problem is if we don't address those folks, we lose the people in the upper right quadrant. The people that are like your strongest performers that are mostly aligned. My first ministry role, which I was there for 9 years, I left for a few reasons, but one of a primary reason was the organization was unwilling to address the people at the top left quadrant, or the bottom left quadrant. So it's like we're allowing people to freeload either because they're low performers or they just get a pass on behavior for certain reasons. But because the leadership was unwilling to take any action on that, ultimately they drove away some of their highest performers.
Yep. I was in a leadership team meeting one time where they weren't on the executive team, but they were on the leadership team of the organization. The person on the leadership team was crushing their goals, but was not living out the values of the organization. And there were some folks that were, bringing that to light in this executive team meeting. And the senior leader said, I will take someone any day who crushes their goals over living out our values. And that was a
Whoa.
huge signal to me of, okay, we've got some underlying work there. But when he said that in front of the whole group, you're then telling everybody else on that team what your expectations are, that values and culture don't matter, only goals do. And good luck to the future of your organization if you have that
Right.
belief as a senior leader. And you're going to lose the top right quadrant, like you said, the folks that are in the retain and recognize and reward category. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really helpful tool. And I have used this with teams that I've been leading. And again, like every 12 months, 20, like every other staff, every other lead team retreat kind of thing. Let's pull it out. Let's take a look at it. Um, and if you get in a financial crunch where it's like, okay, we actually have to let some people go because we just can't financially afford them for this season. That's when you don't, we've talked about this I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. You don't waste a crisis. That's when you're looking for the people, especially that lower left quadrant. And I would say, secondly, that upper left quadrant. Those are the folks you're looking at first to offboard from the team for financial reasons, but also it
Mhm.
allows you to move forward with strength.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, again, go to I think it's youtube.com/leadingsmart. Or like make sure you just type in leading smart, that is all one word. And you can find all of our episodes on there, but this one in particular, which will have the graphics. But just a quick recap. So we've got our x axis is culture, our y axis is performance, and then we have 4 quadrants. So we ranked everybody a 1 to 4 on culture, we ranked them a 1 to 4 on performance, and then our 4 quadrants, bottom left would be remove, bottom right would be reposition, top right would be retain, and top left would be redeem. So, if you want to talk more about this, if you've had some takeaways or light bulb moments, or you realize some hard conversations need to happen, you can book a time on my calendar. Let's talk through it together. You can go to leadingsmart.com, click on Let's Talk, and book a time that works for you. Would love to further unpack this together. All right, Tim, are you ready for our fun random segment?
Let's do it. Let's be random.
So, Teresa, shout out to Teresa on our team. She sent me an Instagram reel this morning that was a lady giving ideas on questions to ask people that aren't like your typical questions. So I was like, this is super helpful. So one of them, excuse me, one of them is, what's a random thing that you collected as a kid?
Uh, Stamps, coins. I still have a coin collection. My grandfather collected coins, and then my dad. So I have a coin collection that started with my grandfather. Um,
Wow.
I haven't touched it in years, but I have it. Yeah, those I don't know if those are random because I think a lot of kids collected coins and stamps like in around my era.
I have to say though, collecting stamps these days is expensive. Stamps are expensive now.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
a
it
dollar.
wasn't. It used to be like 3 cents a stamp or something.
Yeah, that's really cool. The only thing I really collected was, and I think I said this a couple episodes ago, I don't remember exactly, but were like teacher books or like school
Oh yeah,
supplies. Yeah. So I would go in at the end of every school year, would go into like the, textbook closet or whatever. They probably don't even have those anymore. And I would be like, "Hey, which of these are you getting rid of or throwing out?" And I would especially always want the teacher's edition. That was like my favorite, that had all of the notes in there and like would give the
yeah.
teacher like the prompts and stuff. And I would collect them. So that's pretty much the only thing that I really, well, I guess there was a short season there where my brother, who was 5 years older than me, he was into Pongs. Do you remember Pongs? Were your kids ever into Pongs?
No, how do you spell this word you're saying?
E Pongs.
Nope.
I'm like Googling it just to make sure that I'm getting this right. But they were like these I'm trying to make sure yeah, they were like these little discs, and you could collect them. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. I guess it looks like this was like a short-lived thing. Yeah, from the 90s. Somebody on YouTube is like, my Pong collection. Oh, Pog. POG, they were pogs.
Well, there you go.
Pogs. Yeah, they're like these little discs, and you would buy like a plastic tube kind of thing that you would store them in. And there was some sort of game, but I actually don't even remember. I'm gonna have to Google it now. If you remember this and you're an elder millennial like me, email us, Holly at LeadingSmart, Tim at LeadingSmart, and yeah, share your Pog stories. But that it was pretty short lived, and I think I only did it because my brother did it, and I wanted to be cool like him. So Pogs,
And you're probably still trying to be cool like Daniel.
of course, he's very
Yeah.
cool. He's
Yeah.
very All right, friends. Well, couple opportunities for you. So, if you are a church of about attendance of about 10,000 and above, or you're like knocking on the door of 10,000, we have a gathering just for you in September. So, you can go to leadingsmart.com and click on gatherings and read all about that. We'd love to have you. We also just announced today, I guess a few days before this comes out, we're going to do a 1 day experience in Houston in June. And so this is kind of us. We've gotten feedback about this over the years of, wanting to do smaller micro events. So we're doing it in Houston. So if you are a Houston-based church leader, go to leadingsmart.com. Also click on gatherings. You can see it there. And yeah, I think that's it for like kind of upcoming events. And I guess we don't really talk about this a lot, but we probably should. We have a virtual cohort that is open all the time. So if
Yeah.
you are a church leader and you are looking for community connection, coaching, we meet the fourth Monday of every month and have incredible thought leaders, facilitators join us. And if you ever want to check it out for free, just email us again, Holly at leadingsmart.com or Tim at leadingsmart.com. We'll let you check it out for free and decide if you want to join long term. But
Yeah. And you'll see on the website, it says it's an executive pastor cohort, but it's really for anyone in the second chair leadership at a church. So if you're on your lead team or executive team, whatever that top staff team is called, then you're eligible. We'd love to have you.
yeah. All right, Tim, have a great rest of your Friday and into the weekend. Talk to you
Sounds
later.
good. Bye.